Please go a little bit.
Good morning.
Great.
Welcome to St Andrews. What have I just read? With Michael, with Malcolm,
And with the jingle.
and with the jingle.
Excellent.
Yes.
Great readings. I mean, they're always great, but particularly great today. 1 King. So we've moved on from, we were Samuel.
2 Samuel. We were moved on from 2 Samuel. We're now moved into 1 Kings.
1 Kings.
Chapter 1.
And this is, so we've got some more naughty sons. Is this more naughty sons of David?
More naughty sons of David. Adonijah is wanting to, that's how I call him, or Adonijah.
So
He's wanting to become king, and
he's just proclaimed himself king. So he followed. So Absalom was the one who did it before, right?
Yeah.
And did the army, and he came to a sticky end in a branch.
yeah,
And now it's Adonijah, right?
and he's
And not just basically announced himself king. I'm going to be king.
Yes,
And then had a big
presumably
snap-up dinner.
he was the sort of oldest. He would
Right.
probably be the oldest of David's sons. But obviously David had promised to Bathsheba. And that's interesting, isn't it? You know that it's something that started so wrong, God was able to bring right out of it.
Right.
In the sense of Solomon becoming king.
Oh, of course, because Bathsheba is the woman who he basically
He murdered
her husband, basically.
Murdered her husband, yeah.
Sitting into the front.
Yes.
Ah.
And so, and clearly these sort of key people, who are completely loyal to David, Zadok, the priest Zadok, Benaiah, and Nathan.
We've heard of him before, haven't we, Nathan?
Yeah, Nathan was the one who came. Interestingly, Nathan was the one who came and told David, what you have done with Uriah the Hittite and with Bathsheba is wrong.
And with the story of the little lamb. That was Nathan's story.
Yeah, that's right. And so Nathan is here now. Almost Nathan is sort of facilitating it so that Solomon becomes king.
Right, and Nathan's obviously very trusted. By David, because Nathan actually came up with quite a tricky story to tell the king he was wrong and he didn't lose his head. That's interesting.
And of course it really was, as in many places, politics is a very dangerous business. If you're on the wrong side, it's not just, you're not unelected,
right.
You lose your life.
Right, which is alluded to here, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because she's worried for her life and
for
Solomon's life.
Yeah.
Should
Adonijah
become king. It's amazing. It's an amazing sort of story of, what do you call it? What does a king do when their parents? Succession story, isn't it?
Yes.
In fact, which we're going through right now, aren't we?
Yeah, exactly. Yes. Except it is very, in this case, it's so clear.
It's very clear.
It's very, very clear.
Yeah.
And perhaps you could say, well, David hadn't made it very, very clear
beforehand.
Yes. And then New Testament, you had another sermon to read.
So I've read 3 now, isn't it? So it was,
3 big sermons.
Peter to start with, Stephen.
Peter on the day of Pentecost, Stephen just before he gets stoned.
Right.
Right. And now Paul.
Oh, that's Paul, very interesting one. And this is what's fascinating is this would have been. I mean, I love the fact it says after the reading of the law and the prophets, the officials of the synagogue sent the message saying, "Do you have any words of exhortation for the people?" So this actually is being done in the context of a regular service in the synagogue, which is interesting.
Yes, it is. Yeah, I hadn't noticed that, but absolutely.
It's really fascinating.
So Paul is the invited preacher for the day.
Right. And it's interesting that there is no, on this particular occasion, there were no sorts of Pharisees going, heretics, stone them. They were sort of invited to speak, and then they quietly filed out, as I seem to see at the end.
And they do say, nice sermon, Vicar.
They say, nice sermon, Vicar, don't they? Exactly.
And they say, and we'd like to hear more next week.
Yeah, which is really interesting. Fascinating. It's like we want to hear more of that. Which is intriguing.
I mean, because he's not saying here anything that's particularly, he's saying one controversial thing, but he's just giving a very sort of normal retelling of the history of David, this promise that God gave to David that you will not see corruption.
Right.
And Paul says, well, actually, David's body did see corruption.
Right.
So what's this promise, or who is this promise referring to?
Obviously not David.
Obviously not David, but one of David's descendants. And we're saying this Jesus, and Jesus, God has raised him up, and we're bringing good news that God raised Jesus, and that in him again, there is both no corruption, but there is also forgiveness of sins.
And very clearly states that Jesus has been raised from the dead, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
interesting. And it's very sort of Paul in the sense that he's he a liar or he's not a liar? I always think of Paul as a liar. I don't know why I think that, because I don't think he really is he? But
He was a Pharisee, so he was trained in sort of looking at the law and
right.
And yes,
So he's sort of a strong, I mean, a sort of a proper theologian in the sense.
yes, in the sense he was very quite logical. I mean, certainly his writings are quite deep and
it does feel very logical, this, doesn't he? So it goes through everything step by step. Whereas the one before, Stephen, right, he was basically, I mean, he was quite sensational, wasn't he? And then they
he
dragged
was
him out
trying to
of
make one point, really, that people had always rejected God.
right.
And that God couldn't be pinned down. You can't pin God down. And that the ancestors had rejected God and they'd rejected Jesus.
Was that the one where he looks up and actually sees the clouds open?
He sees the clouds open
And
his
as they
face,
literally
and it
stare at
says
him.
his face is like the face of an angel. I love
Right.
that bit, yeah.
Right. It's actually very different sermons.
Yeah.
Very different in reaction.
Having said that, we'll soon find out that Paul and Barnabas get into trouble very quickly.
Right.
But that's
That's
for another day.
sort of inevitable. But it's
Yeah.
strange to see this little moment in a synagogue,
Yeah. Yeah.
which I just think is so incredible. That whole thing of early days of Christianity was basically inside. They were all Jews, basically, weren't they? Sort of incredible.
Yeah.
Amazing. Great.
Lovely. Have a wonderful day.
Yeah, and a wonderful week. And yes, a sad and special day. Yeah.
Bless you.
Right.
Bless you.
Right. Bye.
Bye-bye.